Hello, I'm Kamal Santamaria and welcome to a special on-the-road edition of Counting the Cost here on Al Jazeera. I'm in Toulouse, the home of Airbus, where the world's first commercial A350 aeroplane has been completed and handed over to Qatar Airways. Over the course of the show, we'll take you on board the new plane and hear directly from the manufacturer and the customer.
Keep the money in the bank and get more benefits.
I'm Erica Wood in Kenya's Rift Valley, where the government's trying to harness its geothermal to try and lower people's power bills.
I'm Harry Fawcett reporting from rural Japan, where the shrinking population presents one of the biggest challenges to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's economic recovery plan.
Bonjour from Toulouse and welcome to a special edition of Counting the Cost here on Al Jazeera. We've focused on aviation many times on this programme, but this is something unique. We're here at the Airbus Delivery Centre in Toulouse in the south of France. This is the place where aeroplanes are born, essentially. And behind us is the newest baby of them all. It is the A350, what they are touting as the last new generation, entirely new generation plane for another 10 years. As you see, Qatar Airways is the launch customer. It will take this plane and deploy it on a route between Doha and Frankfurt early in the new year. Why do we care about this plane? Well, it follows on the heels of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the more fuel-efficient carbon composite plane. This plane is 53% carbon composite, and there are nearly 800 of them on order, taking Airbus right through to 2021 at this stage. So it's a popular plane. There's a lot of interest in this particular aircraft. Over the course of the show, we're going to hear from the big players, the CEO of Airbus and the CEO of Qatar Airways. But we really want to find out, first of all, about the plane. What makes it special? What is it that people are here to see?
They've waited 8 years for this, and it won't happen again for another decade. The unveiling of an entirely new generation airplane, this time from European manufacturer Airbus. The A350 picks up on something started by American rivals Boeing, the idea of a lighter, more fuel-efficient plane. This one is 53% carbon composite, making it 25% more fuel-efficient in the air. Is that a good return for $15 billion invested? Airbus thinks so.
We tested a lot. We went through a lot of simulations also, much more than we used to do in the past. And when we started the flight test, we had almost no problem. And we could certify the aircraft in only 14 months when our competitor took 20.
The launch customer is Qatar Airways, famous for exacting high standards, to the point that this handover was delayed by a week.
Unknown to passengers who always feel that an aircraft is delivered by Airbus completed, yes, but all the equipment that is put inside, especially the seats, the galleys, the toilets, are not manufactured by Airbus. It is manufactured by third parties who sometimes default in the quality.
Qatar Airways is talking about new levels of luxury and comfort in this A350, and yeah, that's probably the case up here at what they call the pointy end of the plane. Plenty of room here, plenty of amenities available to the business class customer. But let's have a little look. If we go back a bit further into economy class here. Now, obviously this is the bulkhead seat where you've got more legroom anyway, but there is definitely a few changes. There are touch screens on the back of every seat, which is standard in a lot of planes, but these are quite large. Adjustable headrests are there, a little bit more legroom. So yeah, you could say there are a few improvements on the regular level of economy class travel.
As a passenger in economy, I thought it was great. Honestly, I thought there was noticeable differences in legroom. There was more space under all the seats to put your personal items.
Meanwhile, in the Airbus factory, the work goes on. There are nearly 800 A350s on order from global airlines, which will keep the people on this assembly line busy until the year 2021. For now, though, plane number 1 will begin commercial runs in early January on the Doha to Frankfurt route.
As you can see, a lot of media interest in the launch of this new plane, but also in the company itself, Airbus. You know, aviation is a very important part of the French economy and therefore the European economy, and Airbus is obviously the major player there. We spoke to the CEO of Airbus, Fabrice Bregier, about the launch of this plane and the wider European economy.
Great. It's a great day for Airbus. I think it's a historic day.
Why? Again, this is what I was saying to Akbar Al-Bakr. I want to get through to our viewers. Why care about this one?
Because it's the first one. of a brand new aircraft. And in this aircraft manufacturing history, it was always very difficult to develop it. And we deliver it on time to Qatar Airways, which on top is a very demanding customer regarding quality. So we are very proud of it.
There is a school of thought that you were chasing Boeing on this. Look, many years ago, Akbar Abaka himself said that you were still learning how to make aeroplanes, which is quite a comment from an airline CEO. Did this come about because of the 787? Do you feel you've gone bigger and better than that?
Definitely. We have managed this development in a very professional way. And Akbar is right. He helps us to get better. I mean, his level of requirement, of demand is such that we need to improve. And this is what we did with this aircraft. And I'm very grateful for the support he brought to us during the development of the A350. He was one of the big supporters, he was the launch customer, and he's the biggest one with 80 aircraft, both on the 900 and the stretch version in 2017, the Dash 1000.
How many of these have you got on order now?
We have got 780 orders. So my problem is that now a customer has to wait probably till 2021, 2022 if he want to get a new aircraft. So my new challenge is the ramp up of production.
Okay, and this is something I've always tried to understand, is how long. You're telling me there's obviously a delay, there will be time, it'll take time for everyone to receive their aircraft. But if you started building one of these A350s today, how long is it going to take to come to fruition, to come to this point, give or take?
Right now, it takes about 9 months of assembly process and testing, but I think within 18 months it will take only 3 months. So this is the challenge. And we will achieve 10 aircraft per month at the end of 2017, early 18. So this is the challenge ahead of us.
Only 3 months to
Yes.
create one of these planes.
Yes.
That's quite
Assembling all the parts.
Assembling, but that's quite extraordinary. I guess this is a reflection of the demand that you've got now. It's just
Yes, but we need to do that, and it's not too far away from what we have been achieving so far on the A330. So we know we can make it.
okay. Again, for our viewers who maybe are not that au fait with everything to do with aviation, they've seen the problems that have happened with the first composite plane, which was the Boeing 787. What have you learnt from those problems that you've witnessed? Obviously, that you weren't party to, but you witnessed. And what have you learnt putting into this plane?
Well, we have drawn all the lessons from our competitors, but also from our own history on the A380. And especially, we tested a lot. We went through a lot of simulations also, much more than we used to do in the past. And when we started the flight test, we had almost no problem. And we could certify the aircraft in only 14 months when our competitor took 20. So we drew, I think, many lessons. We integrated Airbus, the French, the Germans working together. And we also had a lot of experience on composite material, but not to this extent, however. So it was a quantum leap for Airbus, which was, I think, well controlled, well mastered by my people. I'm very proud of them.
I can see a 380 sitting over there. I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions about those, because there seemed to be some confusion last week about this. Some people in Airbus saying we may have to scrap the program at some point. Then it was cleared up, no, we're carrying on. What is the future of the 380? Because there is a question over not getting enough orders. You've got lots of orders for these, but not for those.
Yeah, but it was a misinterpretation of what was said. The challenge for us is to become break-even on the A380. We'll achieve that in 2015. We have an order book which is full for 15, 16, 17. The market is doubling in size every 15 years, so looking for bigger aircraft. So the A380 has a bright future, and we are very proud to deliver tomorrow the 4th A380 to Qatar Airways.
Tim Clark from Emirates said you've got to get better engines on those planes, make them more fuel efficient. Are you looking at that? Are you with Rolls-Royce?
We are not looking at that actively, but it's extremely positive that our biggest customer with 140 aircraft on order tells us it's so good that I want to replace later on my 380s, but by more efficient A380s. So one day it's clear that we'll have to do that, but this is not the time to do it right now.
Get a final thought from you, because you mentioned the cooperation between France and Germany on working on Airbus planes, the importance of Airbus, the importance of the aviation industry to Europe, which frankly economically is still struggling. And I wonder, 6 or 7 years later, whether you thought Europe would still be in this position and how important your industry is to it.
You're absolutely right. There is a competitiveness issue overall in Europe. But in the aerospace, expertise, innovation, technologies matter a lot. And so we can compensate a part of it with all this background. But we are also very international. Our supply chain is international. We have a lot of American suppliers, partners of the A350. So we try to have the right check and balance between what we do in Europe and what we do outside of Europe. One big challenge for us is the exchange rate between the dollar and the euro, because a big part of our cost is in euros, and we sell our aircraft in US dollars, and our competitor is American. And we are pleased to see that the dollar is strengthening again, and this one makes the European supply chain more competitive.
Fabrice, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you're an aviation geek like me, then you're kind of in heaven here in Toulouse. Not only a brand new A350 there, but look behind me, a brand new, just about to be deployed A380 Super Jumbo. That will be Qatar Airways' fourth one of these. Relatively new customer to the A380, unlike, say, Emirates, which has got, many in service already, but has ordered up to 140 of them. Tells you a lot about the Gulf Airlines, and we've said this so many times, how much they're expanding, how much they need these new planes online. We spoke to the CEO of Qatar Airways, Akbar Al-Bakr.
I'm delighted. This is history in the making. You normally don't get new aircraft program launched every day. Every 10 years, 15 years, you get a new aircraft program. This is a fantastic machine, and this will really be the backbone of Qatar Airways fleet.
Explain to our viewers who don't know that much about aviation why they should care about this plane. A lot of people just want to get on a plane and go somewhere.
Well, first of all, it is an unprecedented product inside for passengers. The amenities that it contains within the fuselage of the aeroplane, but most importantly for the airline, it is an absolute money maker. It is very fuel efficient. It also has low CO2 emissions. It also has a longer range than a lot of our current aircraft that it will be replacing.
Sure.
So this is really a big boost to Qatar Airways, and it's of course passengers.
Okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the B word while I'm here, but I'm going to. Boeing, can we compare this to the Dreamliner, and are they going to do different things, or are they, because this is the immediate comparison that people will make.
Well, definitely it will do different things, first of all. Secondly, you cannot compare this and the Dreamliner.
You can't? Okay.
This is a more sophisticated aeroplane vis-a-vis technology is concerned. Dreamliner in its own right is also technologically sophisticated, because it is the first aircraft that is totally electric, and it is totally composite aircraft.
Yeah.
Whilst this is a mix of both the traditional and the new design in aircraft manufacture.
Okay, so the question is, why weren't we here last week? What happened? Why did things get pulled so quickly?
You have already heard the issues we had with the A380. We are an airline that demands the highest quality of product inside our airplane. We had some issues with our BFE suppliers. The finishing of certain items inside the aircraft was not what we wanted it to be. Of course, it had no relation to Airbus,
Right.
because unknown to passengers who always feel that an aircraft is delivered by Airbus completed, yes, but all the equipment that is put inside, especially the seats, the galleys, the toilets,
From
are
other
not
parties.
manufactured by Airbus. It is manufactured by third parties who sometimes default in the quality that they need to supply to Qatar Airways.
Right, so nothing to do with the price, because there was speculation
No,
about...
there had nothing to do with the price. The price have been already negotiated 8 years ago.
Right.
And all the contractual obligations on both parties have already been agreed 7-8 years ago. The only issue was seriously the quality of items supplied externally by companies that provide it to Qatar Airways.
Seeing as we're talking about price, I'd like to ask you about the price of oil more briefly. Anytime I've interviewed you in the last 3-5 years, we've been talking about high oil prices, 100 plus, and you were saying obviously how difficult it makes your industry. We are in a very, very different world right now.
You know, airlines operate with very, very low margins. Sometimes it is 2-3%. You know, one wonders that it is better to keep the money in the bank and get more benefit. Oil price is the biggest cost factor in the operation of an airline. And I'm delighted that the oil price is coming down, though it is not very delightful for countries that produce oil.
Of course.
However, lower oil prices will let airlines that are today failing, cutting costs, struggling, keeping their nose just above the water level, to start making a profit, which is very critical for our industry.
Are you still proceeding with alternatives, with the GTL plans, for example?
Yes, Qatar Airways is already being fueled with GTL in Qatar. Qatar is the biggest GTL producer in the world, and all Qatar Airways aircraft in Doha are GTL fueled.
Now, you will have seen at the start of the programme our other correspondents who are out and about this week, so we want to bring you their stories as well, starting with Kenya, which is making a big push towards geothermal power. Now, that's good news for households. They could see electricity bills coming down. Will it be good for business as well? Erica Wood looks at that.
The heavy machinery at this tyre retreading shop in Nairobi uses a lot of electricity. And while everything's working smoothly now, Philip Jenga knows he may at any time suffer another power blackout.
When you don't have electricity, we use the generator.
That's an extra cost to his company of around $400 a month in diesel. But the number of power blackouts has gone down recently, so too has his electricity bill.
I can say the bill has come down with about 15 to 20%.
That's because of a gradual upgrade of lines and infrastructure and an injection of power from harnessing the Great Rift Valley's vast geothermal resources. Hot, high-pressure natural energy bursting up from deep underground.
The people who are getting electricity in this country are less than, is about a quarter of the population. And if we can develop all the geothermal resource, then we can give almost 100% of the population. That means even the guy in the rural areas will get energy.
The geothermal that's been added to the power grid has already saved the country millions of dollars in diesel, which had been relied upon heavily to help bolster the power supply. Around 70% of Kenya's energy comes from renewable sources. The government's investing heavily to try and increase that further.
The country's development is dependent on the energy development. If you have energy available, then you have every reason to bring industrialists around and develop industrially.
And that's the aim. The government wants to turn Kenya into more of an attractive prospect for foreign investors and big business. But Jeff Maragi, who oversees the energy sector at the Association of Manufacturers, says there's still some way to go.
There's some progress in the sector. There's a lot of genuine government effort towards improving the energy situation in the country, but I think over time there has to be a concerted effort towards ensuring that we have cheaper, better quality power in the long term.
To be able to put the tire.
In the short term, Philip at least has noticed fewer blackouts and less money spent on running the generator. That's already meant more reliable tyre production and a little more profit.
And to Japan now, which is getting another shot at Abenomics now that Shinzo Abe has been returned to power. Of course, there's a big problem for him to deal with, and that is demographics, Japan's ageing and shrinking population. Harry Fawcett has this report now from one village in Japan, which is a particular case study of this demographic.
The village of Nanmoku sits comfortably in a fold of mountains northwest of Tokyo. It also teeters on the edge of a precipice. This is the fastest aging, fastest shrinking place in aging, shrinking Japan. Nearly 60% of its residents are 65 or older. Among them, Masayuki Kaneta. His family has owned this sweet shop for 100 years, and he's watched his once thriving village wither over his 75. Japan too has been on the slide for too long, he thinks, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is the man with a plan bold enough to set it back on course.
He is the country's hardest working businessman. He's always working hard for the people. I always watch what he does on the news.
The Abe plan is to shake Japan out of years of quiet decline with stimulus spending, money printing and structural reform. But 2 years in, results have been mixed. Ryo Igarashi is far from alone in feeling the benefits have gone to big business, bypassing the man in the street or indeed on the farm.
Everything is so focused on the bigger cities, and as the government pays more attention to them, more young people will want to go there. I wish they could find ways to attract young people to the countryside instead.
But the numbers, significantly hung, not painted outside the village hall, don't lie. Nanmoku, population 2,220, is losing 100 people every year.
Stopping the decline, I think it's impossible. I think in 15 to 20 years there will be about 1,000 people living here. When we get to 500, I believe it will stop, and then we will be able to increase the proportion of young people here.
The plan in part is to advertise abandoned houses to young people, ideally couples, at low rents. But with jobs scarce, it's a hard sell. Village officials acknowledge that incentives like this aren't designed to reverse the decline. The aim simply is to manage it as best they can. Shinzo Abe would argue that for too long Japan's national leadership has adopted the same attitude, and so he's seeking a renewed mandate for his huge economic shake-up. The trouble is, so far, he doesn't have much to show for it. At the leading edge of Japan's demographic crisis, Nanmoku's decline seems inevitable. Shinzo Abe says he can avert the same fate for his nation, and he wants the voters to give him another term to prove that he knows what he's doing.
And now here's a look at some of the other business stories that have been making headlines this week on Al Jazeera.
We're all well aware of China's global influence through infrastructure projects around the world. Well, construction's now starting on a giant shipping canal across Nicaragua at a cost of $50 billion. Adrian Brown has our report on that.
The businessman behind this high-profile deal tends to keep a low public profile. Wang Jing made his fortune in mining and telecommunications, but has no experience with such large infrastructure projects. Wang insists he doesn't have a political background, yet the company's website boasts of his links to government leaders. Whatever the true nature of the relationship, the deal is very strategic for China.
This project is not just a canal, it's about ports, about roads, about airports, and also tourist resorts, and it will create a lot of jobs for the local people. The local people will definitely benefit from it.
This week, China signed another contract that it says will create jobs and help one more small economy, this time in Europe. The project to fund and build a new highway in Montenegro. The cost just over $1 billion. Small change compared to China's investments elsewhere in the world. Only last month, a state-owned company signed off on a $12 billion contract to expand Nigeria's rail network with a high-speed train service. The problem for China is not money, but cooperation with local people, says one analyst.
So when China is proposing all these institutions, it has to have the capacity to interact with the local community and the diverse interest groups, and that is the challenge for Beijing.
Many of China's other projects are also very strategic. It's working with Pakistan to develop a port on the Indian Ocean that'll be linked to China by road and rail. President Xi Jinping is encouraging this expansion to gain access to the natural resources China needs to fuel its economic growth. And infrastructure projects are often thrown in as part of the deal.
The most important of these investments is perhaps the plan to reconstruct the ancient Silk Road trade route, linking China with Europe via new highways and railways in Central Asia. How does the Chinese government pay for all this? Well, it's currently sitting on savings of more than $4 trillion.
And that's it. We hope you've enjoyed this special on-the-road edition of Counting the Cost. And if you want to see more from our time here in Toulouse, do look me up on Twitter @KamalAJE. You'll find a whole stack of photographs and inside information here from our trip to the Airbus campus. I'm Kamal Santamaria from the whole team here at Counting the Cost. Thanks for joining us. The news is next here on Al Jazeera.